Hello my friends and welcome. Today I have 2 stories for you from subreddit r/entitledparents. Bear with me on this one, I'm feeling a little under the weather, so my brain will be even more fried than it usually is. This first story I'm reading for you is absolutely horrible, and I actually have seen this a lot with my old high school friends, typically women. And to give you more context, I'll obviously read you the story, but to sum it up, this story is like a weird remake of Mean Girls, where OP is Katie Heron and Regina George is her grandmother. My grandma started nasty rumors about me in junior high. My grandma is an interesting individual. One may place her in the Karen category. She's from a small town where you are either very well off and waspy, or you smoke crack and live in an old school made into an apartment building. She's on the waspy side, knows everything and everyone. Always will find something about you to nitpick at. Fun times. The best times was in 8th grade. She was a math teacher in my school for junior high. Oh boy, was that a dandy time. Because I was her granddaughter, that put a huge target on me. Every day, she would watch me like a hawk and wait for the split second I would look away. Then shout, "GD, pay attention. Don't make me tell your mother you're goofing off in my class." And the whole class would giggle. She would grin and her ego would inflate like swim shorts when you first walk into the water. One time I accidentally wore slippers to school, and for the rest of the year she would bring it up like, "Can you not remember the equation like you couldn't remember your shoes?" Cue malicious grins and laughter. But the straw that broke the camel's back was when I got a boyfriend. Bit of a backstory here, I was held back in kindergarten, so I'm a year older than everyone in my 8th grade class. I was dating a boy in 10th grade, but he skipped ahead a grade, so he's actually a year younger than his 10th grade class. This made our age difference to be only about a year apart. However, from an outside perspective, when you first hear a 10th grade boy is dating an 8th grade girl, I'm sure your first reaction would be like, ew. And boy, did my grandma eat that up like it was her very last meal. Anytime we would visit, she would make side comments like, "We know GD prefers older men, right GD?" Or, "If it was my child, I certainly wouldn't approve, but I guess times are a little different." It was annoying, but it wasn't interfering with my life. That is, until she started to gossip about me to other teachers. She would tell them that I was sneaking around with an older boy. I was probably experimenting with things not meant for my age. That I was going into teachers' lounges and bathrooms with him. She also heavily implied my parents were against all of this. For context, my parents know how old we both were and actually aren't crazy. Also, my boyfriend was the quietest, nerdiest kid in his grade. It took us both 2 weeks of holding hands before we even kissed. So none of this was true. But that didn't stop the rumors. During lunch, I'd get asked by girls if it was true I'd done certain sexual things. If I was in class and I would ask a teacher to use the restroom, they would refuse. And if they did let me go, they would interrogate me for several minutes first to make sure I wasn't sneaking off to do it with my older boyfriend. Before any of this, I was literally a fly on the wall and I was completely fine with that. Now, I was miserable and felt completely helpless. After coming home crying for who knows how many days in a row, my mom got fed up. I remember her screaming, "That's it!" grabbing her keys and storming out the door. When she returned, she said that grandma wouldn't be bothering me anymore. Once I got older, she told me a brief summary of what happened. Basically, my mom arrived and approached her calmly, explaining to her that I was her child, and she has control of the situation. She even explained the age difference, after asking her politely to back off and stop telling lies to her coworkers, my teachers. Grandma scoffed and said, "You don't know what she could be doing behind closed doors. I'm just keeping an eye out for her." This set my mom off. She told me that she started yelling at my grandma about slut-shaming her own granddaughter and how miserable I was. She said she has no right to say or do any of this, and what she was doing was cruel and inappropriate. My grandma's response, How dare you enter my home and accuse me of this? Get out of my house. So my mom left. The next day, my grandma avoided eye contact with me. She didn't even try to call on me for answers or point out what kind of clothes I was wearing. She just averted her gaze and did her job. Finally, rumors continued just for a little bit, but then people caught on that it really wasn't as scandalous as the rumors portrayed, and we were left alone. How did this all end? Like you would expect, Grandma acts like it never happened. Never brings it up, avoids the conversations if they are around the time when she taught me. It's irritating, but at the same time, it's expected. Now that I'm an adult and we are all aware of her silly ways, we can just smile and nod until we go home, where we then rant about how mean she was during dinner. Wow. Typically, when you're in high school, it's the quote-unquote cool kids that give you a hard time, not your freaking grandma. That's absolutely horrible. And like I was saying earlier, I have definitely seen this before, not with anyone's grandma, but with their own mother. It's typically like a jealousy thing. They're jealous of their daughter / granddaughter in this situation's youth. And it's especially bad if the daughter is pretty and the mom / grandma will try and beat you down so you feel bad about yourself, and in this case, slut shaming, which is really horrible because if you're that insecure, why would you have children? I'm glad that in this situation though, OP's mom didn't end up like Regina George grandma. Moving on to the next story though, another crazy entitled mom. My entitled mom was afraid of doctors and I nearly died from a muscle cramp. My mother, the entitled mother of our tale, grew up in a household that didn't believe in doctors or going to the hospital. This translated to an irrational fear of hospitals for my EM. At the time of this story, I was 14 in high school and about to have a very bad day. I should start by saying that my entitled mom lives exactly 1 mile away from the closest emergency room. Also, my siblings and father were out of town for a competition that weekend. I didn't feel like going to another cheerleading competition, so I stayed home. I get home from school on a Friday around 4 p.m. and call EM to tell her that I don't feel good and think I need to see a doctor. Entitled mom says that she has a 1-hour workout with her personal trainer, who happens to train the whole family for our sports teams. Entitled mom tells me that she will come home right after and take me to the pediatrician. 4:40 p.m. I call EM saying that something is seriously wrong with me and I really think I need to go to the hospital. She tells me that personal trainer just had a cancellation and she is staying for another hour workout. Then she will take me to the doctor. 5:10 p.m. I call EM and beg her to come home because I am in a lot of pain and feel terrible. She gives the phone over to PT, who says, "I shit you not, it sounds like a muscle cramp from our workout last week. You'll be fine, buddy." She says she will call our friendly neighbor across the street to check on me. 10 minutes later, I hear FN walk in through the door and come to my room to check me out. I'm on the floor because I fell after going to the bathroom and couldn't get up. She helps me into bed and immediately calls entitled mom. Convo goes something like this. "Hey, EM, I think you need to get here ASAP. Your son is white as a sheet and sweating bullets. Also, he is in so much pain he can barely move." "Oh, I'm sure he's fine. Probably just overreacting from a muscle cramp like PT says." "This isn't a muscle cramp. He needs to see a doctor. I can put him in my car and meet you at hospital emergency room that is only 1 mile away." "No need for that. I'll finish up here and head home to take him to the doctor." Click. 5:45 p.m. FN calls EM again and EM says she's in the changing room, then we'll be home in 10 minutes. 6:20 p.m. EM finally gets home. FN tells her what I've been going through and says I need to go to the ER. Mom says she is taking me to see our pediatrician. EM takes me to see our pediatrician, who also runs a pediatric ER. Problem is that doctor's office is 25 minutes away with zero traffic, and we are at the ass end of rush hour. 7:15-ish p.m. We get to the pediatric ER and they immediately take me into the back to see what's wrong. Turns out I have an acute appendicitis and it's close to bursting, so they need to send me over to hospital 1 mile away from my house to get it removed. The entire time, my EM is murmuring about needing to get ready for a trial the next day. She's a divorce lawyer, and how I'll probably be fine and just need to sleep it off. Then there comes a moment when EM is out of the room, but I have a doctor and nurse in the room alone with me. I tell them the whole story about how I've been trying to get her to take me to the ER since 4, how we live only a mile away from the hospital they want to send me to, but my EM decided to go here because she hates big hospitals. The doctor didn't really believe me until I told him to MapQuest. Old school, I know. My address relative to the hospital. I managed to convince them to call for an ambulance to transport me to the hospital to make sure I got there. After my surgery, the nurse told me that my appendix burst as they began the surgery, so they had to be quick. To this day, I still tease PT every time I see him by grabbing my side and saying, "I think I have a muscle cramp." I've never heard him use those words together since. That's actually insane. If I was 14 and my mom told me to sleep off a freaking appendicitis, I would just be like, you're crazy, and I will walk myself to the hospital, and if I die on the side of the road, at least the last thing I didn't have to see was your face. Glad OP made it to adulthood though. I wonder if he has any other crazy stories like this. I would love to hear them. Anyways, I hope you enjoyed these 2 Reddit stories. If you did, please leave a like and subscribe. I truly appreciate when you do, and I will see you in the next Reddit story. Bye!